Hello, my dear students. So, this is Prarthana here, and in the last class, we have discussed about sound, how it is produced, and also the different characteristics of it. Another characteristic of sound, which enables us to distinguish one sound from another having the same pitch and loudness, is called as quality or timbre. The sound which is more pleasant is said to be of a rich quality. A sound of single frequency is called a tone. The sound which is produced due to a mixture of several frequencies is called a note, which is pleasant to listen, and noise is the unwanted sound produced, which is annoying to the ears. Music is pleasant to hear, and that is of rich quality. Now, please see this relationship between speed, distance and time. So speed is equal to distance by time. We all know it. That is why v is equal to lambda by t. Here distance means it is given, it is shown by lambda, and t is the time period here. So lambda is the wavelength of the sound, and t, as we know, it is the time period. And also there is another relationship, that is speed is equal to wavelength into frequency. That is v is equal to lambda nu. So you have to keep it in mind, these two relationships, so that we can use all these things while solving the numerical problems given in this particular chapter. Next we see the speed of sound. Have you ever heard a thunder-like noise when a supersonic aircraft flies over from a nearby region? So that is actually called as sonic boom. So how actually that happens? So if an object travels faster than sound, so it is said to have supersonic speed. And objects traveling with supersonic speed produces shock waves. And the sound produced by these shock waves is called as sonic boom. Okay. Next is reflection of sound. So here in this particular picture, you can see that if we put the clock at, if we take two pipes, and then if we put the clock at one end of the pipe, and then by placing it in this way, the two pipes, if we put a ear this side, we can easily hear the ticking sound of the clock. So that is why that happens, because sound also undergoes reflection like that of light. Due to reflection of sound, we see number of phenomenon such as echo or reverberation. Echo occurs due to the reflection of sound by the hills or the walls of the building. So if we stand near a hill and then if we shout, so we will hear a name. Suppose if we call out our name, so we will hear our names being called twice or thrice, but it will become a bit fainter than the original sound. So that is called as echo. So we hear two sound waves as two distinct sounds only if the time interval between the sound waves is 1/10 of a second or more than that. So if we take the speed of sound to be 344 meter per second at a given temperature, the sound must go to the obstacle and reach back the ear of the listener on reflection after 0.1 second. Hence, the total distance covered by the sound from the point of generation to the reflecting surface and back should be at least 34.4 meter. Therefore, for hearing distinct echoes, the minimum distance of the obstacle from the source of sound must be half of this distance, that is 17.2 meter. Otherwise, even if there are two sounds, we will hear it as only one sound. Okay, the next phenomenon that we come across is reverberation. So reverberation is a sound which is created, is the persistent sound which is produced if we shout or talk inside a very big hall. So in case of in an auditorium or in a big hall, excessive reverberation is highly undesirable. So that is why, in order to reduce the reverberation or that in order to reduce that reverberation or that multiple reflection of sound, the roof and the walls of the auditorium are generally covered with sound absorbent materials like that of your compressed fiberboard or rough plaster or draperies and so on. And also the seat materials are also such that it can absorb the sound. Similarly, in case of the cinema halls also we see such kind of different arrangements for the absorption of sound due to multiple reflection or reverberation. Now there are many uses of multiple reflection of sound. So generally in case of the megaphones or loud hailers or horns or the musical instruments like shehnais and trumpets and all, so there also this multiple reflection comes into account. Other things where multiple reflection is seen is the stethoscope of a doctor. So there the doctor uses the stethoscope to hear a heartbeat or any kind of sound which comes out from our interior. So for that he uses an instrument called as a stethoscope. So there actually, so as shown in the figure, we can see that multiple reflection of sound, it passes through the stethoscope, and because of the multiple reflection of sound, the doctors can easily listen to the sound of the heartbeat or any other thing. It is often noticed that the ceilings of concert halls or conference halls and cinema halls are generally curved. This is because it is curved so that the sound after reflection reaches all the corners of the hall. Next we come to another important point, which is the range of hearing. Human beings can hear sounds which ranges from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. So sounds below 20 Hz are called as infrasound, and the sound above 20,000 Hz is called as ultrasound. Infrasound cannot be heard by the animals, but have you ever noticed before the onset of the earthquake, before the earthquake comes, we hear the strange noises of the animals, especially the dogs. The dogs, they bark a lot. So why does this happen actually? This is because earthquakes produce low frequency infrasound before the main shock waves begin, and that is what alerts the animals. So the dogs and all, they come to know before few seconds or few minutes before the actual earthquake comes. So ultrasound, there are many applications of ultrasound which will be discussed now. Ultrasound is sometimes used to detect if there is any kind of defect or flaw inside a metal block. So as seen in the diagram, ultrasound is allowed to pass through the metal block, and then some detectors are kept towards the other side of it. And then if there is no defect at all, the ultrasound without any problem will enter the metal block. But if there is any defect and all, it will not be able to go, and then the detectors will not be able to sense it. So in that way, if there is any defect in the metal block, it can be known. Similarly, ultrasound is used to clean parts located in hard to reach places. For example, spiral tube and some electronic components and so on. Now, sometimes even difficult to reach things are cleaned using ultrasound. So because of the high frequency of the ultrasound, the particles of the dust, grease and dirt get detached and they drop out. So thus the objects get thoroughly cleaned by the ultrasound. Other uses of it is ultrasonic waves are again used while doing the ECG, that is echocardiography. So it is a medical test which is actually used to reflect the various parts of the heart and form the image of the heart. So based on the ECG or echocardiography, the heart of the person is in the good condition or not, it can be known. Similarly, ultrasound scanner is also an instrument which the doctor uses to find out to image the patient's organs such as liver, gallbladder, uterus, kidney, etc. So if a person is suffering from gallbladder stone or kidney stone and all, it can be easily seen with the help of the ultrasound. And ultrasound may also be employed to break the small stones formed in the kidneys into fine grains, which ultimately in due course of time goes out along with the urine. Another important thing is sonar, SONAR. Sonar stands for sound, navigation and ranging. So sonar is actually a device that uses ultrasonic waves to measure the distance, direction and speed of underwater object. Now, so in case of the ships and all, with the help of the sonar, so the ultrasound is sent from the ship or the boat and it goes to the sea bed, and then it is reflected back. When it is reflected back, it is detected with the help of the detector placed there. So as a result of which, so the distance from the water surface to the seabed can be calculated from there. Now, do you know how does the bat find its prey? The bats actually, we know that the bats can't see at night, but they can easily catch their prey. But how is it possible? So the bats actually, they send out ultrasound, and that ultrasound goes and then it hits the insect, that is its prey, and then it is reflected back. So the bat can sense the exact location of the insect and thus can feed upon that particular insect. This is the structure of the human ear. So this human ear consists of three parts: outer ear, middle ear and inner ear. Outer ear is also called as pinna. That pinna is visible from outside. So the function of the pinna is collection of sound wave. So the pinna collects the sound wave, and if there is no pinna, then the person will not be able to hear because the sound waves will not be collected. So the outer ear or pinna is mainly responsible for collection of sound waves. Then the sound waves, it passes through the auditory canal. So here you can see the auditory canal. So there is a canal. So the vibrations of sound, it passes through this side, and then there we can see a tympanic membrane. That tympanic membrane is called as a eardrum. During compression, the tympanic membrane or eardrum moves inside, and during rarefaction it moves outside. So thereby it creates consecutive compressions and rarefactions produces vibration in the tympanic membrane or the ear. And this tympanic membrane is amplified by three small bones. Those three small bones are called as malleus, incus and stapes. Please see the diagram. It is also called as hammer, anvil and stirrup. So these are the three small bones which are mainly used to amplify the vibration produced in the tympanic membrane. Then in the inner ear has three parts, namely the cochlea, semicircular canals and the auditory nerves. So after the three small bones amplify the sound waves, then those vibrations causes these specialized cells to vibrate. The vibrations are converted into nerve impulses, and those nerve impulses are carried to the brain. So in the inner ear, actually the pressure variations are turned into electrical signals by the cochlea. So you can see the structure of the cochlea in the figure there. So what is the function of it? So the pressure variations are turned into electrical signals by the cochlea, and then these electrical signals are sent to the brain via the auditory nerve. So after being converted into electrical signals, so it has to be taken by the auditory nerve. So that auditory nerve will take it, and then it will take to the brain, and then the brain will interpret the sound. That means the brain will then tell whether the sound is that of a human being, or it is of a dog or a bird, or even the brain enables us to distinguish or to identify the person if we had heard the voice of that person before. So with this we come to an end of the chapter sound. So please go through the chapter by yourself and then try to solve the questions given in the book.